The Grand Ballroom at the Oceanview Resort sparkled under crystal chandeliers as my parents celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary. 300 guests mingled in designer gowns and tailored suits, sipping champagne that cost more per bottle than most people's weekly salary. Everything was perfect except for me, apparently. I stood near the dessert table in my simple navy dress, watching my family work the room like seasoned politicians. Mom glided between groups of guests, her silver gown catching the light as she accepted congratulations on reaching such a milestone. Dad commanded attention at the center of it all, regaling his business associates with stories of his latest real estate ventures. My older brother Daniel held court near the bar, his wife Sophie beside him as they entertained a circle of lawyers and investment bankers. Everyone hung on his words as he described his recent promotion to senior partner at Morrison & Associates, one of the city's most prestigious law firms. My younger sister Melissa worked her own corner of the room, surrounded by young professionals who treated her like royalty. At 28, she'd already made junior partner at Goldman Sachs and was being fast-tracked for bigger things. Then there was me, 32 years old, standing alone by the chocolate fountain, ignored by everyone except the occasional family friend who felt obligated to make polite conversation before quickly excusing themselves. Emma. My Aunt Caroline appeared beside me, her smile bright but strained. How wonderful to see you, dear. What are you up to these days? I run a consulting business, I replied, taking a small bite of chocolate-covered strawberry. Oh, how nice. What kind of consulting? Business optimization and strategic development. Caroline's eyes glazed over slightly. That sounds complicated. Well, I should go find your mother. You know how these parties are. She drifted away before I could respond, leaving me alone again. This had been my experience at family events for the past several years. Ever since I'd turned down Dad's offer to join his real estate firm and struck out on my own, I'd been treated like the family's eccentric relative, tolerated but not really included. Emma. Daniel appeared beside me, champagne flute in hand. Having fun at the kiddie table? I'm not sitting at any table, I pointed out. Exactly my point. You know, there's still time to join a real company. Dad's offer to bring you into Harrison Properties is probably still open. I'm doing fine on my own, thank you. Daniel laughed. Fine? Emma, you drive a car that's older than Melissa's in turn. You live in a one-bedroom apartment in Queens. Mom told me you shop at discount stores. I like my neighborhood. And there's nothing wrong with getting good value for money. Good value for money, he repeated, shaking his head. That's exactly the problem. You think small so you achieve small things. Before I could respond, the lights dimmed and Dad stepped up to the microphone at the front of the room. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for celebrating this special milestone with Margaret and me. 25 years of marriage, 3 wonderful children, and a lifetime of blessings. The crowd applauded politely as Dad beamed under the spotlight. I want to take a moment to talk about family, he continued. About the importance of building something lasting, something meaningful. My children have made me incredibly proud with their achievements. Here we go, I thought. Daniel has become one of the most respected attorneys in the city. His firm handles cases worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Melissa has proven herself as a rising star in investment banking, managing portfolios that most people can't even comprehend. More applause. I could see Daniel and Melissa glowing under the praise. These are the kinds of achievements that make a father proud. Real careers, real success, real contributions to society. The spotlight swung around the room and for a moment I thought it might land on me. Instead it stayed focused on Dad. Of course, he continued, his voice taking on a different tone, not every child finds their path immediately. Some take longer to mature, to understand what real success looks like. My stomach tightened. He wouldn't. Not here, not in front of 300 people. My youngest daughter Emma is still figuring things out. She's always been different. A bit of a dreamer, you might say. She's been trying to start her own business for several years now with limited success. Limited success. That's how he described what I'd built. But that's okay, Dad said, his voice taking on a patronizing tone that made my cheeks burn. Everyone develops at their own pace. We're hopeful that Emma will eventually find her calling, perhaps in a more traditional career path. The applause this time was scattered and uncomfortable. I could feel eyes turning toward me, some sympathetic, others curious to see how the family disappointment would react to being called out so publicly. Dad raised his champagne flute higher. So tonight, let's celebrate not just Margaret's and my marriage, but the success of our family. Well, most of our family. That last comment drew a few uncomfortable laughs from the crowd. I stood perfectly still, my face carefully neutral as Dad finished his speech and the crowd applauded. The spotlight moved away, the music resumed, and conversations gradually started up again. But the damage was done. I could feel the shift in energy around me, the way people's glances lingered just a little too long, the way conversations quieted when I walked past. Emma. Mom appeared at my elbow, her expression somewhere between embarrassment and defiance. Your father didn't mean anything by that. Didn't he? He wants the best for you. We all do. By humiliating me in front of 300 people? By encouraging you to aim higher. Emma, sweetheart, you have to admit your business isn't exactly thriving. I looked at her carefully. What makes you think that? Well, you still live in that tiny apartment. You drive that old car. You never go on expensive vacations or buy nice things. And that means my business is failing? It means you're not making the kind of money that would allow you to live the way someone your age should be living. Melissa joined us, her face flushed with champagne and praise. Emma, I hope you weren't upset by Dad's speech. He's just worried about you. Worried about what? About your future. About whether you'll ever be able to support yourself properly. I support myself just fine. Daniel had wandered over as well, completing the family circle. Emma, come on. Be honest with yourself. When was the last time you made a significant amount of money from this consulting business? Last week, actually. How much? Melissa challenged. Enough. See, that's what I mean, Daniel said. You can't even give us a straight answer about your income. That's not how successful people talk about money. How do successful people talk about money? With specifics. With confidence. When I close a case, I know exactly what the settlement was worth. When Melissa structures a deal, she knows the exact commission. You speak in vague terms because there's nothing concrete to discuss. Mom placed her hand on my arm. Emma, we love you. But love sometimes means being honest about hard truths. What hard truths? That you're 32 years old with no real assets, no savings, no retirement planning. You're living paycheck to paycheck from whatever small contracts you can find. How do you know what my financial situation is? Because we can see it, Melissa said gently. We can see how you live, how you dress, how you spend your time. The evidence speaks for itself. Dad had finished working the room and rejoined our little family conference by the dessert table. Emma, he said, his voice softer now but still condescending. I hope you understand that what I said up there came from a place of love. Love. Yes. Tough love. Sometimes children need to hear difficult truths to motivate them toward better choices. And what better choices would those be? Like accepting the position I offered you at Harrison Properties. Starting at an entry level so you can learn the business properly. I thought you said I wasn't qualified for real estate. You're not qualified to start at the top, Dad corrected. But everyone can learn if they're willing to put in the work. Daniel nodded approvingly. Dad's right. You could start in property management, work your way up over 10 or 15 years. Build some real experience. 10 or 15 years, I repeated. That's how long it takes to build genuine expertise, Melissa added. There are no shortcuts to real success. I was about to respond when the ballroom doors opened and a young man in an expensive suit hurried in, scanning the crowd. Excuse me, he said to a nearby waiter. I'm looking for Ms. Harrison. The waiter pointed in our direction. The young man approached our group, slightly out of breath. Ms. Harrison? I'm so sorry to interrupt your family celebration. All 4 members of my family turned to stare at him, then at me. It's fine, Marcus, I said calmly. What's the update? The private jet is ready for departure. The Singapore team confirmed they'll have everything prepared for tomorrow's board meeting. Also, the contracts from Toyota and Mercedes arrived, both signed and approved. The quarterly earnings report shows we exceeded projections by 38%. The silence around our little family circle was deafening. Thank you, Marcus. Give me 5 more minutes here, then we'll head to the airport. Of course, Ms. Harrison. I'll wait by the entrance. Marcus walked away, leaving my family staring at me with expressions ranging from confusion to shock. Private jet. Mom whispered. Singapore board meeting? Daniel added. Toyota and Mercedes contracts? Melissa's voice cracked slightly. Dad was the first to find his voice. Emma, who was that man? Marcus Chin, my executive assistant. Executive assistant? Daniel repeated. Emma, what exactly do you do for a living? I told you. I run a consulting business. What kind of consulting business has private jets and contracts with car manufacturers? Melissa demanded. I pulled out my phone and showed them the screen. The kind that's worth $437 million. The number hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. 400. Mom couldn't finish the sentence. $437 million, I repeated. That's the current valuation of Harrison Strategic Solutions, my consulting firm. Dad sat down heavily in the nearest chair. Harrison Strategic Solutions, that's your company? Yes. But that's the company that restructured the entire automotive supply chain for GM last year. Among other things, yes. Daniel was frantically typing on his phone. Emma, I'm looking this up. Harrison Strategic Solutions. Oh my God. You're listed as the founder and CEO. That's correct. It says here you revolutionized global manufacturing efficiency using AI-powered analytics. Also correct. Melissa grabbed Daniel's phone. This article is from Harvard Business Review. The woman who saved American manufacturing. Emma, this is about you. I prefer to think of it as optimized rather than saved, but yes. Mom was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Emma, this article says you have contracts with over 200 Fortune 500 companies. 243 actually. We just signed Tesla and Apple last month. Tesla and Apple, Dad repeated faintly. The private jet Marcus mentioned, I continued, is necessary because I travel to client sites around the world. Singapore, Tokyo, Frankfurt, Sao Paulo. It's more efficient than commercial flights when you're managing operations across 6 continents. 6 continents? Daniel's voice was getting higher. We don't have any clients in Antarctica yet, though there's been some interest from research stations about supply logistics. The family circle had gone completely quiet. Around us, the anniversary party continued, but our little corner had become an island of stunned silence. The Toyota and Mercedes contracts Marcus mentioned, I said, deciding to fill the silence, are worth about $80 million combined. They want us to optimize their global manufacturing processes. $80 million, Melissa whispered. That's just this quarter. Annual revenue last year was $1.2 billion. Dad made a choking sound. $1.2 billion? Revenue, not profit. Profit was only about $400 million after expenses, taxes, and employee bonuses. Only $400 million, Mom repeated numbly. Well, we reinvest heavily in R&D. Plus I believe in paying employees well. Our average salary is about $200,000 with full benefits and equity participation. Uncle Robert, who had been eavesdropping from the nearby cocktail table, stumbled over to join us. Emma, are you telling us you employ people? 1,437 people across 23 countries. We're expanding into South America next year, which should add another 200 positions. 1,400 employees, Uncle Robert said slowly. Emma, that makes you one of the largest private employers in the consulting sector, yes. The reality was starting to sink in. I could see it in their faces, the gradual understanding that everything they thought they knew about me was completely wrong. But your apartment, Victoria protested weakly. It's so small. It's a penthouse in Manhattan. 5,000 square feet, Central Park views. I call it small because I also own a house in the Hamptons, a villa in Tuscany, and a ranch in Montana. A villa in Tuscany, Mom repeated. 15th century, fully restored. I bought it from an Italian count who needed liquid capital. It's where I go when I need to think through major strategic decisions. Daniel was still scrolling through his phone. Emma, there's a Forbes article here. The Invisible Billionaire, How One Woman Built an Empire in Plain Sight. That was an interesting interview. They had to sign 3 NDAs just to get basic information. It says your net worth is estimated at over $800 million. Forbes tends to underestimate. They only count public assets and verified holdings. The actual number is higher. How much higher? Dad asked, his voice barely audible. As of market close yesterday, about $1.4 billion. The champagne flute slipped from Mom's fingers and shattered on the marble floor, sending crystal shards skittering across the ballroom. 1.4 billion, she whispered. Give or take a few million depending on currency fluctuations. Marcus appeared at my elbow again. Miss Harrison, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the Singapore team is holding for the video call. Of course. I turned to my family. I need to take this call. We're finalizing a partnership with the Singapore government to modernize their entire shipping infrastructure. Singapore government, Dad repeated faintly. It's a 3-year project worth about $600 million. Excuse me for just a moment. I walked a few steps away and answered the video call on my phone. Through the screen, I could see 5 men in business suits sitting around a conference table 12,000 miles away. Good evening, Minister Chin. Yes, the proposal modifications look excellent. We can begin implementation next month. My family watched in stunned silence as I conducted a 10-minute conversation about port modernization, AI-driven logistics management, and international trade optimization. When I finished the call, they were still standing exactly where I'd left them. Sorry about that, I said, returning to the group. Time zones make scheduling challenging. Emma, Mom said slowly, what just happened? I approved the final phase of a major infrastructure project. With the Singapore government. Yes. For $600 million. Yes. Uncle Robert had gone pale. Emma, how long have you been successful? Define successful. Rich, Daniel said bluntly. When did you become rich? I hit my first 100 million about 4 years ago. But the business has been profitable for nearly 8 years. 8 years, Melissa said. Emma, we've been treating you like a failure, I finished. Like someone who couldn't manage her own life, let alone help others manage theirs. Dad sank into another chair, his face ashen. All this time we thought. You thought I was struggling because I didn't buy expensive clothes or drive a luxury car. You assumed I was unsuccessful because I didn't brag about my achievements or name-drop my famous clients. Famous clients? Victoria had joined our circle, drawn by the obvious drama. I pulled out my tablet and opened my client directory. Would you like to see the list? Before anyone could answer, I turned the screen toward them. The list included household names. Amazon, Microsoft, General Motors, Boeing, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, ExxonMobil, and about 200 others. These companies pay us between $5 and $50 million annually to optimize their operations, I explained. We've saved American businesses approximately $47 billion over the past 5 years. $47 billion, Dad whispered. Our algorithms have revolutionized supply chain management across multiple industries. The Pentagon uses our systems to coordinate military logistics. NASA hired us to optimize their mission planning processes. NASA, Mom said faintly. The Artemis program. Getting back to the moon requires incredibly complex logistics coordination. Daniel was frantically scrolling through his phone again. Emma, there's a Wall Street Journal article about NASA's logistics contractor. Is this you? Probably. Though they usually refer to us as an innovative consulting firm, rather than using my name directly. It says here that your systems improved mission efficiency by 60%. 63% actually. The journal's numbers were from an earlier report. Marcus reappeared at my side. Ms. Harrison, the Singapore call went well, but we need to discuss the Amazon expansion before tomorrow's flight. Amazon expansion? Melissa's voice cracked. We're helping them optimize their global delivery network, I explained. It's projected to reduce shipping times by 40% worldwide while cutting costs by $22 billion annually. $22 billion, Uncle Robert repeated numbly. The contract is worth about $400 million to us over 3 years. Dad looked up at me from his chair, his face a mixture of shock and something that might have been awe. Emma, how did we not know any of this? Biz, you never asked. And when I tried to explain what I was working on, someone always changed the subject or dismissed it as playing with computers. But the money, Mom protested. How could you have this much money and live so normally? Because money isn't the most important thing in life, Mom. I love my work. I love solving complex problems. I love helping companies become more efficient and profitable. But you could buy anything, Victoria said. Anything at all. And I do buy what I want. I wanted a comfortable home, so I bought one. I wanted reliable transportation, so I bought a car that would last. I wanted to travel efficiently, so I bought a jet. You actually own a private jet? Daniel asked. 2 of them, actually. The Gulfstream G650 for international travel and a smaller Citation for domestic trips. Marcus checked his watch. Ms. Harrison, we really should head to the airport. The Singapore meeting is in 14 hours, and you wanted to review the quarterly reports during the flight. I nodded and turned back to my family. I need to go. Thank you for including me in your celebration. Wait, Dad said quickly, struggling to his feet. Emma, we need to talk about this. About what? About everything. About the business. About the family. About how wrong we've been. I studied his face for a moment. Dad, 30 minutes ago you called me the family disappointment in front of 300 people. You said I didn't have a real career. You suggested I was an embarrassment to the family name. That was before I knew. Before you knew I was rich, I finished. My value as a person hasn't changed, Dad. The only thing that's changed is your perception of my bank account balance. Emma, please, Mom said. Don't leave like this. I'm not leaving angry, Mom. I'm leaving because I have responsibilities. 3 governments are waiting for my input on critical infrastructure projects. 47 major corporations depend on our systems for their daily operations. 1,400 employees are counting on me to make smart decisions about their future. 1,400 employees, Melissa repeated softly. Plus their families. I take that responsibility seriously. Marcus was waiting patiently by the ballroom doors, but I could see him checking his watch again. The Singapore project I'm flying to tonight, I continued, will improve shipping efficiency for the entire Asia-Pacific region. It'll reduce costs for businesses and make products more affordable for consumers. That affects millions of people. Millions of people, Dad said numbly. So yes, I need to go. But this has been educational. I started walking toward the exit, then paused and turned back. Oh, and Dad? The foundation that sponsored tonight's event? The one that paid for the ballroom, the catering, the entertainment. He nodded mutely. That was the Harrison Foundation. My charitable organization. I thought you and Mom deserved a beautiful anniversary celebration. With that, I walked toward the exit where Marcus was waiting. Behind me, I could hear shocked whispers spreading across the ballroom as word of what had just happened began to circulate. By tomorrow, everyone in our social circle would know that the family disappointment was actually worth more than most of them combined. As Marcus and I walked through the resort lobby toward the waiting car, my phone buzzed with messages. Dad, Emma, please call me. We need to talk. Mom, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. We had no idea. Daniel, I feel like an idiot. Can we start over? Melissa, Emma, I'm mortified. Please forgive us. I showed the messages to Marcus as we settled into the backseat of the car. Shall I draft responses? He asked. Not yet. Let them process this for a while. Understood. The jet is fueled and ready. Flight time to Singapore is approximately 18 hours. As we drove toward the airport, I reflected on the evening. For years I'd let my family believe I was struggling because I wanted them to love me for who I was, not what I could give them. Tonight proved that their love had conditions. Conditions based on wealth, status, and social standing. But now they knew the truth. The question was, what would they do with that knowledge? My phone rang. Dad again. This time I answered. Emma, please don't hang up. I won't hang up, Dad. I made a terrible mistake tonight. We all did. Yes, you did. How can we fix this? I watched the city lights flash past the car window as we headed toward the airport. That depends, Dad. Are you sorry because you hurt me or because you found out I'm rich? Both, he admitted quietly. But mostly because we hurt you. Oh, we love you. We've always loved you. You have a funny way of showing it. I know. And I'm going to spend whatever time it takes making this right. How? By listening. By asking about your work instead of dismissing it. By treating you like the accomplished woman you clearly are. I could hear Mom crying in the background. Dad, I'll be back from Singapore in 4 days. If you really want to make this right, prove it. Show me that you're proud of what I've built, not just impressed by how much money I make. How do we do that? Figure it out. You're a smart man who built a successful business. I'm sure you can think of something. As we pulled up to the private aviation terminal, I could see my Gulfstream waiting on the tarmac, its engines already warming up. I have to go, Dad. I have a company to run. Emma. Yes. I love you. And I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. For the first time all evening I smiled genuinely. I love you too, Dad. See you when I get back. As Marcus and I boarded the jet, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Hope that my family might finally see me for who I really was. But first, I had a $600 million infrastructure project to oversee. The plane lifted off into the night sky, carrying me towards Singapore and away from the family that had just discovered their biggest disappointment was actually their greatest success.